Hello to you all. My name's Andrew Chung, artistic producer of London Symphonia. So every season, we throw the reins to one of our musicians to design a concert program that interests them and shows a different side of the music that they're interested in. This season, Shawn Spicer, our principal trumpet, has come up with this concert titled Transformed. And Shawn is here today with us to share the basis for this really interesting program. Shawn, welcome.
Hello, thanks a lot.
Great you could join me. I find this program absolutely intriguing. So it's called Transformed, and you have said that transformation is at the heart of all creativity, and hence you can create a whole concert program around this concept. Expand.
Well, that's really what musicians have done for centuries, is taken little sort of kernels or tidbits and sort of worked them into whole pieces, whole uh, works of great magnitude. Um, they've taken folk songs, they've taken dance music, and turned it into art music. It's all of this is kind of embodied in all of the music that we're presenting with this program.
It's starting with something small and simple, and then transforming it into something complex and jaw-droppingly wonderful. Yes, I get it. I get it. Now, so for this concert, you've got at your disposal as the arranger and orchestrator, which we'll touch on in a second. You've got at your disposal the winds and the brass of London Symphonia, as well as percussion. So, how do you go about orchestrating something? And before we you tell me that, tell me what's the difference between orchestrating or reorchestrating something and arranging something.
Well, arranging, you're really taking something uh, like an existing tune, and there's a bit of a more creative process that's going on there. You're adding your own maybe harmonies or various kind of counter melodies, and you're really building something, building on the material that's already there. With orchestration, you are using some work that's sort of complete, more or less complete and ready to go, and you're just sort of putting the instruments, sort of filling in various instruments with the parts that are basically already there.
You're choosing the team that's going to go out and perform this, and in the order, it being that master puppeteer, in what order, who's going to play what? Which do
Exactly.
you, which role do you prefer, orchestrator or arranger, or both?
I am definitely more of an orchestrator than an arranger. I don't really have the imagination to be an arranger or a composer for that matter.
Fair enough, fair enough. So when I look at let's dive a little into this music. So when I look at the list of the music that you guys are performing, it's varied. My goodness, it spans about 500 years, starting with this early Renaissance music. So as the in this case, you probably are doing a little bit of arranging. And in this case, what did you start with? Like, what are you? Is this music that's written down in a form that we're familiar with, or is it a different look to the actual the sheet music that you're probably looking at a facsimile of, handwritten, presumably? So, tell me what you started with.
Yeah, you're right. You know, in the case of some of the early music, there are some more artistic choices that can be made. Um, the all of the music in that in those first sort of in the sort of first part of the concert from the Renaissance is taken from collections. by well, in this case, two different composers, or two different composers, Michael Praetorius and Tilman Sisato. And this is something that happened, or that people did in at this time, was they compiled these collections of instrumental or vocal music. In this case, we are sort of dealing with collections of instrumental music. And so uh, back in that time, uh, they would have been performed with consorts of instruments. And a consort is a collection of like instruments. So that might have been recorders or viols, which are the equivalent of our modern string instruments. They might have been more exotic instruments to us today, like shawms, or one of my favorites are rackets, that and crumhorns, those sorts of things.
Sounds so criminal. My goodness, all these names. The Shams. Sounds like Sean. Okay, now, just so people know, you dropped a bunch of names there. The Sham is a predecessor to the oboe, is that right? So a reed instrument.
Correct.
The recorder, predecessor to.
It's definitely flute-like, but it sort of is an instrument kind of to its in itself. In
You.
fact,
Yep, go
the
ahead.
recorder hasn't changed really over the centuries very, very significantly.
And what, pray tell, would be the predecessor to the trumpet?
Well, th th this is I'm going to equivocate a little bit. The trumpet is the predecessor to the trumpet.
Hmm.
um, they had trumpets in the before the 19th century that didn't have any valves. But an instrument that was played very, very much like a trumpet is the cornetto. And that is in that we use a mouthpiece and buzz our lips into it. And I actually have one right here, and I'm gonna use it in the uh sorry, here you can kind of, yeah, that's it. You can see it there. And so we've got a mouthpiece that kind of looks like that.
Hmm.
Actually, I have a trumpet mouthpiece, and it's quite a bit smaller actually.
Hmm.
And then this instrument is made of wood, covered in leather. And I'll play a couple notes for you.
I think Zoom cut out the cornetto. It's got a cornetto filter on it. So we do.
You know,
So you
I
might
actually run into that problem all the times when I teach online lessons. Uh,
you have to come to the concert to hear the cornetto.
that's
And then so these consorts would so groups of like instruments would come together, play this music. Would there be a mixing of like cornetto and recorder, or would it to your understanding, would it be more strictly divided?
well, most of the time, or much of the time, this music was just played for the pleasure of the people that were playing the instruments. In order to enjoy music, you really needed to play music back then. So, uh, so the the people would have these instruments, and they would have their favorite instruments, and they would sort of play them in their homes. It did happen also, though, that sometimes there were professional musicians around, and that they would be in uh, the court or something like that, and they'd be playing for people that would be dancing as well. So but very, very often this music was designed initially in these collections that I was talking about before to be played by the musicians, played by the people that were just wanting to enjoy the music.
And part of daily life was certainly dancing, right?
Yes. Yeah,
hmm
absolutely. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to J.S. Bach, and then you get to the Art of the Fugue, this is, iconic music. And now you're orchestrating it for this particular group. Is there a little bit of trepidation undertaking that, or is that just pure joy?
I lean towards joy. Bach really is uh so versatile. His music is so versatile. Um there's so many interesting things that are just happening in that music, so many layers that you just find like these really interesting little things to do with with the arranging or orchestrating just kind of pop out. It's really quite remarkable. And as you work on these things, the little details of the music are, just come more and more clear. It's great. Definitely joy.
Fantastic. And then it becomes a little bit absurd with not J.S. Bach, but PDQ Bach. For those of us who don't know PDQ Bach, a little bit of background.
Sure. Uh, PDQ Bach was the invention of a composer named Peter Schickele. And he really took on this persona of this kind of bumbling composer, uh, a sort of one of a kind of unknown child of Johann Sebastian. And he wrote a lot of pieces that were just as PDQ Bach, that fell into this sort of a bit of a comedic form. Peter Schickele himself, though, was a really, really very, very skilled composer.
hmm And you'll be performing the Echo Sonata for two unfriendly groups of instruments. We could
That's
only imagine. We could only imagine. Now,
right.
this concert also goes. You're performing variations on America by Charles Ives. How did you decide on this one?
Well, one thing that people that have a familiarity with the wind ensemble repertoire will notice that there's a few pieces in here that actually uh, are familiar to them, and this is one of them. The Ives variations is something that I definitely came across first in as a university student playing in concert bands. So that is a standard part of that repertoire. Scott Harrison, who actually did the arranging for this piece, um, had already done it for brass quintet.
Hmm.
Um, and this is the original form of this piece is actually for organ. So it has
Okay.
taken on quite a number of forms.
Transformed once again. And then there's a really interesting aspect of this concert is the pop music. And you've taken two songs, one by Macklemore and one by Amy Winehouse. And in a way, this would seem a great departure as part of the path of this concert, but in a way, it's not, right? They're just
Yeah.
great tunes,
Mhm.
and you have taken them, arranged them, and orchestrated them. Uh, Tell me just a little bit about these two tunes.
Well, first of all, you're right, and just like the very beginning of the concert with these collections of music, there were a number of pieces within these collections that were very popular. They were popular tunes, popular songs, popular dance music. And so here we are at the very end of the concert doing very much the same thing that was kind of happening at the beginning of the concert. These are a couple pieces. I mean, I've always been an Amy Winehouse fan. Um, the thrift shop, funny enough, I didn't know who Malcolmore was, but I came across this tune when I was arranging music for another ensemble, the Convocation Brass, that plays convocations at for Western University. And it's just a really fun piece that I thought everybody would enjoy and might make a nice end to the concert.
Fantastic. Um, eh, and 300 years from now, you could imagine that, hey, maybe that Amy Winehouse tune is still remembered. Maybe it's just the chorus though that's survived and it's so catchy, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of the way it went with some of these old folk songs. Shawn, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for putting together this program, Transformed, that we're all looking forward to hearing. This will be performed live and live streamed from Metropolitan United on May 25th. Thanks again, Shawn.
Thank you.